Massively. Multiplayer. Online. The MMO, often followed by 3 more letters, RPG, has been around for decades. When the internet became more accessible to wide swaths of people, we as social creatures wanted to take the thing we'd been doing alone, playing games, and do it with others. But as we got a taste of playing together, we wanted our worlds to expand, to be immersive, to be a second life, to let us roleplay and experience new journeys, hence the MMORPG. But modern MMORPGs tend to forget that, focusing on the destination rather than the journey, opting for number crunching and mind-numbing quests over player agency. How did we get here, and how is one game trying to solve this? I want to ask, what if we stopped focusing on the end game, and instead focused on the now game? Well, for the first question, we got here because as a genre and any media matures, the media within that genre start to fall into habits. Like how in every action movie, they just use orange and teal. Seriously, you won't be able to unsee this. In video games, new ways are discovered to create experiences for the player. Some good, like these innovations here, and some that were good but then got a little overused, like having to climb a tower in every game to unlock points of interest in the map around you. But over time, these features accrue, and the term MMORPG starts to take on more than just the meaning of its 6 letters. It starts to become its own genre with expectations tied to it. These new methods then get adopted in other games by developers who don't really question why they're doing it, either because we all know MMOs are hard to make and they don't want to waste time, or just that they think they should because the genre calls for it. Skill points, abilities, the grind, checklists, and chores.
And we're going to try another pigeon now.
This is the Skinner box, a controlled lab setup where animals learn behaviors through reinforcement or punishment.
I will try to pick out some particular pattern of behavior and make it a more frequent part of the repertoire of the bird.
This is a design used by most games across all genres, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's usually good. On the well-designed side, small bits of information are fed to a player to allow them to piece together solutions without ever being explicitly told what to do. For example, you reach a fork in the road. Which way do you go? One must be a secret, like a treasure or collectible or gear, and the other, a continuation of the story. Developers can condition you to understand how they want their level design to be interpreted. They can show you that collectible on a cliff that you can't reach, but a path around the back will bring you there, where you can then drop back down to where you started and continue on the correct story path. Do this a few more times, and the player learns that the path closest to the treasure will always be the optional path. This is great for the player, and the developers never had to explain anything with words. Through conditioning, you've given the player the tools to make decisions quicker about what journey they want to take. But on the less thoughtful side, you just hijack their dopamine centers with cheap tricks and surface-deep mechanics, like having multiple currencies that a player has to accrue to unlock things, or like simply left-clicking to mine a resource just to make your mining skill level go up. The skill and player agency involved is minimal. The primary investment is time. As noted in research on the problem of the Skinner box, this design risks crowding out intrinsic motivation. Players stop exploring for the joy of discovery and start grinding solely for the extrinsic reward of a higher number. This is the opposite of how we experience our own good stories in real life. Most MMORPGs don't respect that journey, often focusing on numbers over unique experiences. In fact, I'm going to break down that mining gameplay loop that I mentioned just before and explain how it can be done better. Because numbers aren't inherently bad, but what if we replaced skill points with skill? What if we replaced abilities with your abilities? What if the grind was the reason you played? How about a game where nothing is locked behind levels? If that sounds enticing, then I just tricked you into liking Star Citizen. I'm kidding, sort of, but I am going to use it as a primary example as it is the most ambitious attempt at the now game. If you'd prefer, you could use any game built around emergent gameplay systems like Grand Theft Auto or even Halo to a degree. How many days were spent trying to shove warthogs into bunkers on Blood Gulch or launching scorpions across the map? It's just that Star Citizen is an MMO, and I would like to make this as direct a comparison as possible. It's the design I'm more focused on, and the game has plenty of great examples to compare it to. The gameplay loops that feel tedious and grindy in other MMOs are the exact reason to play Star Citizen. Games like Grand Theft Auto and Star Citizen replace statistical abstraction with physical simulation. Yeah, this video is essentially just an argument for emergent game designs. Let's finally break down that mining example I talked about before and how developers can rethink their approach to designing these kind of gameplay loops. Mining or resource gathering is an activity in nearly every game, let alone MMOs. In most games, though, the process of gathering resources is simple: a left click and no failure state. You will always succeed. Risk is low. Your only focus, therefore, is the end game. The journey, the act of mining, does not matter. Only the end result is rewarding. With Star Citizen, skill and knowledge come into play. What materials do I want and where can I find them? What mining head do I have and will it be able to break into the rock I need? Do I need consumables to help with power? Or gadgets to place on the rock to reduce its resistance? These are the numbers and knowledge, but supplemented with mechanical gameplay. Nothing is locked behind your mining skill level. Once that's all sorted out, we start scanning. First wide blast to find rocks in the area, then narrow in the scans to pinpoint it. Knowledge of emission signatures will help us scout the rocks we want faster. Then we go out into the void of space, floating and alone. And place the gadget. We move back to our ship and get ready, because the minigame of stress is about to begin. We fire up our laser, filling the rock with energy to break it apart. If the green bar finishes with even a little bit of red still visible, the rocks will explode. Your goal, to stay in the green. Entering the red fills up the bar, and if we finish the green bar with even a little bit of red still visible, the rock will explode further, making a mess or even damaging our ship. Potentially, even killing you. What other game gives us the risk of death while simply mining from the act of mining? But we did it. The rock explodes, and we gather our reward. Now we have the choice to have someone else take the bags from us and put freshly empty ones in so we can continue avoiding explosions, or we could enter the next stage of fear by bringing them back ourselves, to either sell or refine. But on our way back, after all this work, another player could come along at any moment and take us out. These are all variables that create the story, not the experience points you get from mining, but the experience itself. Maybe another player came along and you shut down your ship to avoid scans from them as they looked for player emissions to try and pirate your cargo. Maybe you forgot to repair your cooler as it gains wear and tear over time. And now all of a sudden, your ship systems are overheating and you've got to panic and get your ship back up and running. You could use your laser to do damage to the pirate coming after you, or try to inject so much heat into the rock that it explodes and a piece of it flies off and hits the person chasing you. That is just something you can't do in mining and other MMOs. These physicalized systems lend to the player having unique experiences every time they log on. Because these systems aren't designed specifically just for mining, they're designed for the game, they apply to other gameplay loops as well, like for instance, combat. In a game like Final Fantasy XIV, a critical hit is a dice roll calculated by a back-end server based on your stats. The player uses abilities tied to their class as they try to unlock more experience points to level up. The entire player experience is built around numbers and a specific type of play. The focus is more about where you're going instead of what you're doing right now. In Star Citizen, a critical hit, like maybe hitting a ship's power plant, is a result of your aim, your positioning, and your knowledge of the enemy vessel's internal layout. That critical hit is your decision to make. The design is shifted from character skill to player skill. Looking at these systems, you can now see how in a lot of traditional MMOs, a lot of choices are made for you. Instead of choosing to go for a critical shot, a critical hit may just happen. Instead of choosing the mineral that you want, you might just have to get lucky. And the last piece of classical design I want to attack: classes. Fireball, Rain of Arrows. Classics in the MMO world. Class-based skill. Pick your class, lock in, and play your role. What if you wanted to try something new? Time to start from the beginning on a new character. While some games allow skill respecs, class changes are much rarer. But because it's become more common in recent years for games to allow you to switch your class in certain ways, I'm not going to harp on it too much. But I do at least want to explain why I think in an MMO, a world designed for you to live in for a long time, that it's a bad idea for you to be locked into a class. Ships in Star Citizen act as the class and gateway to certain gameplay loops. A mining ship, a cargo ship, a fighter. But by detaching the class from the player and imbuing it into ships, it gives the player agency to leave and choose a new ship, and by proxy, your class. Being told to play a certain way by the game feels so archaic and imprisoning. I want to choose to be a healer or medic, doing so with my own knowledge and skill, not because my class now has abilities that no one else has access to. In Star Citizen, I can choose to buy some medical gear and a medical ship and join a battle to help players out, or find rescue beacons to save strangers. But after the battle's done, I'm not stuck to being a healer. I can store those materials and pick up some heavy armor and a grenade launcher and tank my way into a different fight. Or I could become a tugboat, helping other players who have lost control of their ships. At any point, this choice is mine. Besides my in-game currency, I have the same tools accessible to me that a new player does. Nothing is locked through levels or skill points. No gameplay or content behind a wall. For the quick learners, you've already recognized the footage that I'm playing and why I'm playing it. These habits and thoughtless design choices have led us to a stereotype in MMORPGs called the theme park. MMOs built around bespoke activities made by the developer designed to be played a specific way. That's usually on rails and designed just to make a number go up. But the best journeys are always the ones that we find ourselves in by accident or by our own choice. Many in-game events in Star Citizen have come from emergent player behavior, like Jumptown, a battle for an unmarked outpost discovered by a player to be accidentally printing out high-value goods, and everyone wanted a piece of it. Or the Daymar Rally, a yearly multi-hour community-run racing event across a moon's surface. These are things you just don't often see in traditional MMOs because of their restrictive and controlled nature and lack of deep gameplay systems. Well, I'm not going to pretend I've played every MMORPG out there. I have played many over the years, enough to see common habits pop up that I just find not fun and shallow. You may enjoy what the status quo of a traditional MMO brings, but I think it's time that they evolved, which is why Star Citizen has been so refreshing and people stay tied to the dream of what it could deliver if CIG gets their act together. All of these variables in Star Citizen allow for more areas that things could go wrong, which are more areas for a story to be told that no one else has experienced. As I said, other games do this, and some MMOs have mechanical skill-based systems like New World, but on the whole, the genre needs to rethink. Imagine what we could get if MMO developers simply adjusted their view, shifting from an endgame to the now game. Thank you for watching, and if you like what I had to say and how I said it, I plan to highlight others, and maybe you'll find your next favorite game through me. Hopefully one day I can put out videos a bit more often, and if you'd like to help me on that journey, you can support me on my fourth wall, which is like Patreon, alongside these incredible people who believe in me for some crazy reason. And if you did originally subscribe to this channel for Star Citizen content, I am now making content on any game I enjoy, and if you want just my Star Citizen stuff, you can go over to my other Star Citizen channel.